Foreign Minister, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
What is Qatar's response to these demands?
Mainly, if you are looking at the demands, there are accusations that Qatar is supporting terrorism. There are shutting free speech, shutting the media outlets, expelling people, oppositions, violating the international law by withdrawing citizenship from some of the peoples and return them back home. So there are a lot of demands which are against the international law.
And are you saying you're not going to comply?
We are not going to comply with anything against the international law. We are not going to have something which will just signal out Qatar. And if any solution will be provided, it should be provided for the entire country.
Is there any of the demands that you see has any room for compromise, for negotiation, for you accepting the demands? Shutting Al Jazeera.
Shutting Al Jazeera, this is something out of question.
Throwing out the Turkish base.
You are going to ask me the demands one by one, but let me tell you that any issue of touching the sovereignty of the country, we are not going to discuss.
You have called this, the siege, a clear aggression and an insult. Is that what you feel about what's happened?
It is an aggression. It is an act of aggression and insult for any independent country, for any sovereign country, when you are imposing a blockade, a political blockade, economic blockade, and a social blockade on an independent country. It is an act of aggression. They accused Qatar that Qatar has a special relation with Iran, as an example, and they never imposed any of these measures against Iran, from the other hand. So it is an act of aggression against the country for different reasons, not because of Iran.
You are accused by the UAE and others of funding extremism abroad, including here in the UK. So a very direct question, can you categorically state that no Qatari money comes here to fund hate preachers or any kind of terrorist organizations?
Well, just let me respond to you about the funds of Qatar, which is going outside Qatar to fund.
See, the problem is that that's a yes or no answer. Either Qatari funds are going to terrorist organizations or they're not.
They are not going to terrorist organizations, and if there is any Qatari who is involved in financing any terrorist organization, he will be held accountable for the wrongdoing he has done. And there are a few individuals cases who are already in a trial, and some of them are convicted already.
And you think they're going to any hate preachers here? You know, we have a lot of problems in Britain, as you've seen.
If there is any charities which operate under Qatar governance system, they have to comply with the governance system of the beneficiary country when they are operating there. So if there is any violation, it should be reported, and Qatar will take an action against them. We are against any hate preacher, whether it's in Qatar or outside Qatar. We believe that the world is suffering from terrorism, and all of us, we have to work together collectively in eradicating this.
How do you square the following circle? When I spoke to your emir at the UN a few years ago, he was saying that we don't support terrorist organizations, but we and some of our allies and some of our neighbors may have different definitions of what different things are.
I know that in America and some countries they look at some movements as terrorist movements, but there are differences. There are differences that some countries and some people, that any group which comes from Islamic background are terrorists, and we don't accept that.
Is that still your position?
It is our position, as long as the terrorist is not defined as terrorist organization within the United Nations Security Council, or there is no proof that this organization is involved in violence. If there are political organizations who have with Islamic background, we have no problem, or we are not designating them as terrorist organization, but we have nothing to do to support them as political organizations as long as they are operating outside Qatar.
So what about Hamas, which has been designated a terrorist organization by Israel, by the United States, and leaders like Khalid Mashal are in Qatar?
Hamas representation in Qatar is a political office. It's not any military representation there in Qatar. The political leadership of Hamas now, they are inside Gaza. There are some in Qatar, yes, but the ones who are in Qatar, they are involved in the national reconciliation, which is Qatar working and facilitating it, and it is also endorsed by the international community and also in coordination with the United States. Qatar support doesn't go to Hamas. Qatar support go to the people of Gaza. And if we are going to provide a platform for any of the movement, it doesn't mean that we are endorsing their ideas. It's a matter of of a platform provided for engagement in order to facilitate for a peace talks or to be helpful in contributing to the peace.
And the Muslim Brotherhood, obviously they're not designated a terrorist group by all countries, but Egypt thinks it's a terrorist organization.
Egypt, they are designating them as terrorist organization. They have to treat them, they are treating them in Egypt as terrorist organization. But for me in Qatar, they are not designated as terrorist organization, and Qatar doesn't sponsor the Muslim Brotherhood or doesn't have a presence of the Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood are political movement which operates in Bahrain, which is one of the blockading country, and they are designating them as part of their demands now a terrorist organization while they are operating in the parliament there in Bahrain, which shows you the double standard in this.
And Al-Nusrah? We remember the very famous case when Qatar, fortunately, was able to get an American, a journalist, out of captivity, and you dealt with Al-Nusrah to get them out.
Dealing with Al-Nusrah, engaging, as I told you, engaging with any organization doesn't mean endorsing the ideas. And for us as Qatar, we have facilitators to facilitate this dialogue. We don't have direct interaction with them.
Do you think President Trump and the administration are contributing to this crisis, or can they play a mediating role?
Well, U.S. and Qatar relationship has been very strong, and they are playing a strong role in this. So the U.S. government is highly involved in this conflict, and there are also several steps being taken by them which forced the blockading countries to submit their demands. So there is a role for the U.S. in mediating in this.
I wonder what you think of President Trump, who tweeted, "During my recent trip to the Middle East, I stated there can no longer be funding of radical ideology. Leaders pointed to Qatar. Look." Did Trump's visit encourage this move by the Saudis?
The reference of President Trump's tweet here is he's been told by leaders who imposed the blockade against Qatar. He didn't refer to the agencies of the United States, which we have. Everyone has followed the statements of the Department of Defense or the State Department and the appreciation of the relationship of Qatar and Qatar contribution to countering terrorism. So the references of the U.S. government agencies and institutions, which has a long-lasting relationship with the state of Qatar, they know very well the activity of Qatar and the way how cooperative is the state of Qatar with the United States.
So you must have thought it was sort of a knife to the heart when, at first, Secretary Tillerson appeared to want to play a mediating role, and very shortly thereafter, President Trump doubled down against Qatar.
The president, when he tweeted, when he referred to,
it was in the Rose Garden,
a foreign leaders, or he has his speech, he's delivering his speech, and he's referring to our foreign leaders, not to his agencies. We take what's coming out from the agencies and the agencies we are dealing with. President Trump has talked with His Highness the Emir, and in his calls, he was always insisting that this need to be solved, this crisis, we cannot afford any further escalation, and we believe this is the position of the United States.
And just finally, I mean, what do you think is the real reason for all of this?
Well, we believe that Qatar independence and its policy, maybe it's sort of a driving force for this. Qatar policy, first of all, had been always independent, different view, yes, but it never affected the collective security of the Gulf countries. And it's never been meant to be affecting the collective security of the Gulf countries. And we don't want to compromise any of the Gulf countries' security because we'll have a sequence on Qatar. So Qatar has been more progressive in different fronts than the other countries. Maybe this is one of the motives. And I believe mainly that a small country is punching over its weight, as you have mentioned, is something annoying for big countries, and this is normal practice. But what Qatar is doing is not punching over its weight. Qatar is an active player in the international forum, using the international mechanism clearly and visibly, with full transparency in front of everyone. And we are trying to bring people together. We are trying to make peace in the world, not to create wars in the world. We are trying to solve the problems by diplomacy and providing a platform. And this is a unique role big countries cannot play, small countries can do.
Foreign Minister, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Chris.